The Today with Jenna Friends show was supposed to be a light-hearted morning chat filled with laughter, music, and friendly banter. Blake Shelton, the country superstar known for his charm and humor, arrived at the studio expecting just that. However, the tension behind the scenes hinted that the day would not go as planned. Jenna introduced Blake with her usual enthusiasm, welcoming him to talk about his upcoming music projects and life after The Voice. The atmosphere at first seemed relaxed, but subtle signs of unease began to appear as questions turned more personal, hinting at sensitive issues Blake hadn't planned to discuss. At the start, Blake handled everything with a smile, joking about his ranch life and teasing himself about how much coffee he'd already had that morning. The audience chuckled, and things seemed fine. But when Jenna mentioned the rumors surrounding his relationship with former co-stars and his decisions to step back from television commitments, the energy shifted sharply. Blake's expression hardened for a brief moment, though he tried to mask it with a forced laugh. It was clear that he hadn't expected those questions, and the casual tone of the conversation began to crumble. Jenna, always known for pushing boundaries with honesty and curiosity, pressed it a bit further, asking if fame had started to take a toll on his personal life. That was when Blake's patience started thinning. He leaned back in his chair, choosing his words carefully. His response was short, almost dismissive, saying that he didn't come there to discuss tabloid stories. The studio audience noticed the tension immediately, and the once friendly air turned awkward. Jenna, sensing discomfort, tried to lighten the mood, but Blake's silence spoke louder than words. The producers signaled Jenna to move on to another topic, but the friction had already taken root. She brought up his latest single, expecting to regain control of the conversation. Blake spoke briefly about the song's inspiration, but his tone was noticeably colder. Every word seemed weighed down by frustration. He kept glancing at the clock, clearly eager to wrap things up. Meanwhile, Jenna's co-host attempted to inject humor, but it didn't land well. The laughter in the audience had grown hesitant, unsure whether to cheer or stay quiet. As the conversation dragged on, Jenna brought up a segment comparing Blake's older songs to his newer work, mentioning how some fans believed his recent music felt less raw and more commercial. That comment seemed to hit a nerve. Blake's eyebrows furrowed, and he leaned forward with a stern look. He firmly stated that his music evolved with time, and no one had the right to define what was authentic for him. His words were sharp. The crowd gasped slightly, and Jenna's smile faded as she realized the tension had escalated far beyond normal celebrity discomfort. The producers in the control room debated whether to cut to a commercial break, but the heated exchange had become too compelling to interrupt. Blake's frustration was visible now. He adjusted his mic and took a deep breath, trying to maintain composure. Jenna, perhaps hoping to mend things, told him she admired how he always kept it real. However, Blake interpreted it as sarcasm and gave a curt laugh. He muttered something under his breath that wasn't picked up clearly by the mic, but it was enough for viewers to sense irritation. When Jenna asked about his rumored disagreements with other artists, Blake's patience finally broke. He said, with a tight voice, that he was done answering loaded questions meant to stir drama. The studio went silent. Jenna looked surprised, insisting that she was only asking what fans wanted to know. Blake shook his head, leaned back again, and gave a frustrated smile. Fans want music, not gossip, he said, tapping his finger on the armrest. The line drew a few claps from the audience, but most people were too stunned to react. At this point, Jenna tried to defuse the situation by laughing it off, suggesting they play a quick game segment as planned, but Blake wasn't interested. He looked straight at her and said, "I think we're done here." The crew froze. Jenna blinked in disbelief, unsure if he was joking. Blake unhooked his mic, stood up, and said calmly, "I came to talk about music, not to defend myself." The audience gasped audibly as he walked off the stage. The camera awkwardly followed his exit before cutting back to Jenna, who was visibly flustered. The moment went viral within hours. Clips of Blake walking off circulated across social media, with hashtags like #BlakeWalks, often #TodayShowDrama trending. Fans were divided as some praised Blake for standing up for himself, while others criticized him for overreacting. The show's official account tried to smooth things over by posting a light-hearted message saying, Live TV keeps us on our toes. But behind the scenes, producers were scrambling to handle the fallout. They debated whether to release an edited version or leave it as is for transparency. Later that afternoon, reports surfaced claiming that Blake's management team had contacted the network to express disappointment over the tone of the interview. A close source said he felt ambushed by personal questions disguised as casual conversation. Meanwhile, Jenna defended herself in a brief post, saying she only asked what fans had been curious about. She insisted there was no intention to offend him. Still, the tension between the show and Blake's camp grew, with some insiders suggesting he might never return to the program again. By evening, entertainment outlets picked up the story, dissecting every second of the footage. Analysts speculated that the clash revealed deeper frustrations Blake had with the media's constant focus on his private life. In a late-night post, one fan wrote, "He's tired of being treated like gossip bait. He just wants to sing." That sentiment gained traction as many defended his reaction as human. However, critics argued that walking off mid-interview showed unprofessionalism. The debate spilled into talk shows and podcasts the next morning. The following day, Jenna addressed the incident briefly on air, saying that live TV sometimes leads to unexpected moments. She emphasized that she still respected Blake deeply and hoped there were no hard feelings. Her tone was calm but regretful. Viewers appreciated her grace, though some felt she was holding back what really happened. Meanwhile, Blake remained silent publicly, refusing to issue any statements. His silence only fueled curiosity and speculation, as fans scoured his social media for clues or subtle messages. 2 days later, Blake finally posted a short message on his official account, saying, "Sometimes walking away is better than saying something you'll regret." The post exploded online, interpreted by many as a direct reference to the show. His fans flooded the comments with support, while others asked him to reconcile with Jenna. Media outlets ran new headlines about his cryptic message, keeping the story alive even longer. The network, realizing the publicity was massive, quietly benefited from the buzz despite the initial awkwardness. Behind the scenes, producers discussed inviting Blake back for a future episode to clear the air. They reached out through mutual contacts, offering a chance to set the record straight in a friendlier setting. Sources say Blake appreciated the offer but wasn't ready. He preferred focusing on his upcoming tour and letting the incident fade naturally. Industry insiders remarked that this might even boost his image, portraying him as authentic and unwilling to play along with artificial talk show drama. In the end, the clash became one of the most talked about moments in recent morning show history. What started as a simple interview turned into a viral event, sparking discussions about celebrity boundaries, media ethics, and authenticity in entertainment. Both sides handled the aftermath carefully, ensuring no permanent damage. Yet, the moment Blake Shelton stood up and walked off that stage became symbolic, a reminder that even stars have limits, and sometimes, the best response in a heated moment is simply to walk away. After the storm of online chatter, Blake decided to retreat to his Oklahoma ranch for a few days to clear his mind. Away from cameras and questions, he spent time riding horses, fishing, and reflecting on what happened. Friends close to him later revealed that he wasn't angry as much as he was disappointed. He felt that morning shows were becoming more about creating viral moments than celebrating music. That realization struck him deeply, making him question whether open interviews still had a place in modern fame. Meanwhile, the Today With Jenna Friends team was under pressure from the network to address the situation more directly. Producers held long meetings debating if they should air a follow-up segment or let the moment fade. Ratings had skyrocketed because of the controversy, but they knew reputations were at stake. Jenna herself was conflicted. She didn't want to appear as though she provoked Blake intentionally, but she also wanted to stand by her journalistic instincts. Balancing those two truths became a delicate challenge for her. Behind closed doors, several of Blake's fellow artists reached out privately to show support. One country star even commented publicly, saying, "We've all been there. Sometimes interviews cross the line." That solidarity gave Blake comfort, though he still avoided public appearances for a while. The media, however, refused to let the story die. Every move he made was dissected, from a quiet dinner outing to a studio visit. The press seemed eager to turn a single moment of frustration into a long-running narrative of rebellion. A week after the incident, a behind-the-scenes staff member from the show anonymously spoke to a tabloid, claiming that Blake had been irritated even before the cameras rolled. They said he looked tired and uninterested during sound check, and that producers had been warned not to bring up his personal life. Whether that account was true or not, it reignited public debate. Some people blamed the show for ignoring boundaries, while others said Blake should have been more professional despite the discomfort. Jenna, feeling the heat, agreed to an interview with a major magazine where she explained her side calmly. She said she had always admired Blake and didn't expect him to react so strongly. She admitted that her questions might have been too direct, but insisted her intent was genuine conversation, not confrontation. The interviewer noted her regretful tone and her repeated emphasis on respect. That interview helped soften public opinion toward her, portraying her as a host caught in an unfortunate misunderstanding rather than a deliberate instigator. Blake's team continued to manage the situation carefully. They arranged subtle ways to shift focus back to his music, releasing snippets of his new single, posting rehearsal clips, and announcing his upcoming performances. Fans quickly redirected their attention toward his work, leaving the controversy behind. The move proved strategic and effective, showing that in the music industry, authenticity and art could overpower drama when handled right. Slowly, the incident that once dominated headlines began fading into memory. Still, talk show producers everywhere took note. The moment became a lesson in celebrity handling, a reminder that even seasoned entertainers have emotional limits. Many networks quietly reviewed their pre-interview guidelines, deciding to give more transparency to guests about what topics would be discussed. The Blake incident, as it became known in production circles, was cited in internal memos as an example of how quickly live television can go off track when communication breaks down. It became almost a cautionary tale for morning TV. Months later, Blake finally addressed the matter briefly during another radio interview. When asked if he'd ever appear on the Today Show again, he chuckled and said, "Maybe one day, if we're just talking about music." His tone was relaxed, showing that time had healed most of the frustration. The host joked about bringing Jenna to one of his concerts as a peace offering, and Blake laughed genuinely for the first time in a while. That small moment signaled that the tension had finally begun to thaw. Meanwhile, Jenna and her producers sent a private note to Blake's team expressing continued admiration and appreciation. Though the letter wasn't made public, insiders said it was heartfelt and respectful, acknowledging the uncomfortable turn their interview took. It emphasized their hope to collaborate again under better circumstances. The gesture was well received, even if there were no immediate plans for another appearance. Both sides seemed ready to move forward quietly without reopening old wounds. The incident also sparked broader discussions about celebrity vulnerability in the digital age. Analysts pointed out that stars today live under constant scrutiny. Every frown, pause, or reaction can become a viral clip within minutes. Blake's decision to walk away rather than argue publicly was reinterpreted by some as an act of maturity, a refusal to be baited into drama. Others saw it as a powerful reminder that silence can sometimes make a louder statement than words ever could. On social media, fans began creating edits of the incident mixed with clips from Blake's songs about independence and standing up for oneself. What had been a tense moment gradually turned into a symbol of artistic integrity. Memes and fan-made quotes framed him as someone unafraid to protect his peace, even at the cost of public opinion. It showed how quickly public narratives can evolve from outrage to admiration depending on how they are framed and remembered by fans. As time went on, the Today with Jenna Friends show bounced back strongly, learning from the event and adapting its format slightly. Future interviews became more focused on collaboration and positive storytelling, with less emphasis on rumor-driven questions. Ratings remained high, proving that viewers still respected Jenna's authenticity despite the clash. In a strange way, the controversy helped redefine her show's tone, making it more thoughtful and emotionally aware than before. For Blake, the walk-off became a defining memory of his career. not as a scandal but as a moment of self-respect. In later interviews, he joked about it lightly, saying, "I guess that day, I just needed more coffee and less drama." Fans loved the humor, and the remark drew applause. His ability to laugh about it showed his resilience and self-awareness. The very event that once seemed damaging had, over time, strengthened his reputation as a genuine artist who valued honesty over spectacle. Industry insiders later reflected that the incident marked a subtle shift in celebrity interviews altogether. Stars became more cautious, and shows began emphasizing comfort and consent before going live. The fine line between journalism and intrusion became clearer. Blake's decision to walk away, though shocking in the moment, had sparked meaningful change in how entertainment handled boundaries. It was one of those rare times when a tense moment led to lasting reform rather than short-lived scandal. In the end, what began as an awkward morning TV moment turned into a lesson in authenticity, boundaries, and respect. Blake Shelton and Jenna eventually moved past it, both continuing their careers with renewed understanding of the power of words and timing. The viral clip remained a piece of pop culture history, replayed whenever discussions of live television mishaps arose. Yet, beneath all the noise, one truth remained: sometimes, walking off doesn't end the story, it simply starts a more honest one. Months after the incident had faded from the headlines, a documentary crew working on a series about live television moments approached both Blake Shelton and the Today With Jenna Friends team. At first, neither side was interested in revisiting the topic, but the producers promised to frame it as a lesson in media communication, not scandal. Eventually, both agreed to participate. When the episode aired, it showed unseen behind-the-scenes footage, including how the crew tried to calm the situation moments before Blake walked off. The documentary was surprisingly well received, showing both sides with fairness and empathy. Blake's interview segment in that documentary was refreshingly honest. Sitting casually with a cup of coffee, he admitted that he had woken up that morning already feeling off, which made him less patient than usual. "I'm human," he said. "Sometimes you don't have the energy to play along when the questions feel a little off." His candidness resonated with viewers, who appreciated his willingness to own his emotions rather than deflect blame. For many fans, it made him even more relatable than before. Jenna's appearance in the same documentary mirrored that openness. She talked about how difficult it can be to balance entertainment and journalism in a live setting. "You want to make a guest feel comfortable, but you also have a responsibility to ask what people are curious about," she explained. She admitted that she had learned a lot from that day, especially the importance of tone and timing. Her reflective tone earned her renewed respect, and many viewers commented online that the episode brought closure to a story that had lingered too long. After the documentary aired, both Blake and Jenna saw an unexpected surge of positive attention. Fans flooded social media with messages of support for how gracefully they handled the follow-up. Instead of fueling more drama, the project seemed to finally heal the rift that had once defined their interaction. The entertainment world moved on, but now with a sense of closure. Blake even reposted a clip from the documentary on his official page, adding a caption that read, "No hard feelings, just lessons learned." In the months that followed, Blake poured his focus into his next album, channeling his experiences into his songwriting. Several tracks subtly hinted at his frustration with fame and public expectations, wrapped in his signature humor and honesty. One song, in particular, titled "Walk Away Easy," became an instant fan favorite. Listeners immediately connected it to the talk show Walk Off. Though Blake never confirmed it directly, the song's heartfelt lyrics and mature tone earned him praise from critics who admired his ability to turn controversy into creativity. Jenna, on her end, began introducing a new segment to her show called Real Talk Moments, where guests could address uncomfortable topics in a respectful and prepared environment. The idea was inspired by her clash with Blake, though she never explicitly said so. The segment became a hit, praised for its sincerity and emotional depth. Fans loved seeing celebrities speak openly without feeling ambushed. Ironically, the very conflict that once caused tension ended up inspiring one of the most authentic additions to her show's format. As time passed, both Blake and Jenna occasionally mentioned each other in interviews, always with humor and mutual respect. On one radio show, Blake joked, "If I ever come back to her show, I'm bringing a list of my own questions." Jenna later responded on air, laughing, "He's welcome anytime, as long as he promises not to walk off again." The light-hearted exchanges showed that the tension had evolved into a playful, friendly rapport, much to the delight of fans who had followed the story since the beginning. Behind the scenes, media professionals studied the Blake-Jenna moment as part of journalism workshops and TV training sessions. Producers used it as an example of how unpredictable live broadcasting can be and how emotional awareness plays a key role in managing guests. The phrase "don't pull a Blake" jokingly became shorthand in studios for avoiding confrontation, though it was always said with admiration. The incident, rather than being a cautionary tale, became a teaching tool for understanding authenticity on camera. Blake's public image matured even further after the incident. He was no longer just seen as a country star with charm. People now viewed him as someone unafraid to draw boundaries. His fan base grew stronger, especially among those who respected his insistence on genuine conversation over showmanship. Music journalists noted that his walk-off moment had ironically deepened his brand of honesty, making him one of the few artists who could turn controversy into credibility without losing his cool entirely. In a surprising turn, a charity event brought Jenna and Blake together again almost a year later. They were both scheduled to appear at a fundraiser for children's hospitals, hosted by a mutual friend. The organizers were initially worried about awkwardness, but when they meet backstage, they greeted each other with a warm handshake and a laugh. Jenna reportedly said, "Promise you won't storm out this time?" And Blake chuckled, "Only if you promise no tricky questions." Their friendly exchange broke the ice instantly. During the live event, the crowd cheered as the two appeared on stage together. Blake even joked about their past, saying, "We've proven you can walk away and still come back," earning laughter and applause from the audience. The moment was captured widely on social media, hailed as a wholesome reconciliation. Both stars posed for photos, and the press celebrated the reunion as a refreshing example of forgiveness in the entertainment industry, something rarely seen in today's fast-paced, drama-driven culture. The success of that reunion sparked renewed interest in a potential collaboration. Jenna's producers floated the idea of inviting Blake back for a special episode celebrating authenticity in entertainment. While there was no official confirmation, both sides expressed openness to the idea. Fans were thrilled at the possibility, flooding comment sections with excitement. The idea of Blake returning, not as a guest under pressure but as a partner in meaningful conversation, felt like a full-circle moment waiting to happen. By the second anniversary of the original walk-off, media outlets published retrospective articles analyzing how much had changed since then. Many praised both Blake and Jenna for showing emotional intelligence and growth. They had turned what could have been a career-damaging spat into a story of respect and reflection. The phrase "the walk-off that taught TV a lesson" began appearing in headlines, symbolizing how conflict, when handled with humility, can lead to genuine understanding. In later years, when Blake reflected on his career in a magazine profile, he mentioned that day again, but only briefly. "I'm glad it happened," he said. "It made me realize that I don't always have to smile through things that don't sit right. You can stay kind without pretending." Those words summed up his entire approach to fame: grounded, honest, and human. His fans loved that he could look back without bitterness, only gratitude for the growth it brought him. Ultimately, the Blake Shelton and Jenna incident evolved far beyond its viral beginning. It became a story of boundaries, redemption, and the strength it takes to turn awkwardness into understanding. What started as a clash turned into collaboration, and what once looked like a scandal became a milestone in authenticity. Years later, fans still recall that unforgettable walk-off, not as a moment of anger, but as the start of a conversation about respect, realness, and the courage to stand firm with grace.